In 1945 in New York, 5,000 people stood in line for 8 hours. They were fighting. Police could barely contain the crowd. For what? For an ordinary ballpoint pen costing $12. Today, the same pen sits in your pocket and costs 50 cents. But behind this simplicity lies 60 years of drama, betrayals, and brilliant discoveries. Give this a like if you also twirl your pen while thinking. Late 19th century. Imagine, you want to write a letter to your beloved, but instead, it's torture. Most of the world's population either couldn't write at all or wrote with enormous difficulty. In developing countries, only a few could read and write, and even in the USA and Europe, every fifth person remained illiterate. The steel nib scratches the paper, ink smears, turning the document into an artistic blot. Every few words, a dive into the inkwell. Automatic fountain pens solve these problems, but cost as much as a small car, $150. Imagine, paying a worker's monthly salary just to write "Dear Mother." Straight lines without blots were perceived as art, accessible only to the chosen few. Common people made do with pencils, or didn't write at all. And then 1888, American inventor John Loud looks at his capricious pen and thinks, what if I replace the sharp tip with a ball? The idea seemed brilliant. The ball should roll across the paper, evenly distributing ink. No scratches, no blots. October 30th, 1888, Loud creates the world's first ballpoint pen. Patent obtained, press delighted, investors ready to invest, but it tears paper to shreds. The ball works like a miniature bulldozer. Ink either doesn't flow at all or pours out like a river, turning the letter into a blue lake. You could only write on rough cardboard with it. Fine paper was out of the question. The revolutionary idea gets thrown into history's trash bin, along with Loud's dreams and money. Now pay attention. For the next 50 years, hundreds of inventors worldwide struggled with the same devilish puzzle. Engineering minds racked their brains over a seemingly simple problem. If the ball sits tight, ink doesn't flow. Nothing to write with. If it's loose, it flows like a waterfall. Nothing to write on. It's like tuning a radio, slightly left, silence, slightly right, interference, and the perfect frequency slips away. But while hundreds of inventors were beating their heads against the wall, in distant Budapest, one journalist accidentally spotted the solution in a printing house. 1944, the height of war. Laszlo Biro observes the work of a printing press. Rollers evenly spread thick printing ink across paper, without a single blot, and it hits him. Eureka! It's not about the ball, it's about the ink. For 50 years, inventors had been fighting the wrong problem. Liquid, water-based inks behave like water. They flow wherever they want, dry slowly, seep through paper. What if we make them thick? Biro experiments with oil-based inks, and a physical miracle opens up: capillary action. Just as moisture rises up a rose stem, thick paste pulls itself up to the rotating ball. Perfect flow without overflow. The first buyers were the British Royal Air Force. Why? In a Spitfire cockpit at altitude, fountain pens exploded like grenades. Pressure changes turned elegant pens into ink fountains. But Biro's pen worked like a Swiss watch. War didn't just save the invention, it tested it under extreme conditions. But the price was biting. $190, more than an average American's monthly salary. While Biro was perfecting the technology, a real corporate thriller was unfolding in America. Businessman Milton Reynolds, imagine a wolf in sheep's clothing, stole the idea, bypassed all patents through an army of lawyers, and launched production of pirated copies. October 29, 1945, chaos reigned at Gimbel's department store in New York, that very 5,000-person line I mentioned at the beginning. People fought for their place in line like for Frank Sinatra concert tickets. In one day, 10,000 pens at $12.50 each. This was history's first hype around office supplies. Reynolds made $1 million in one day, but the cheap pens began breaking in mass. A year later, Reynolds disappeared from the market, leaving behind a pile of broken pens and disappointed Americans. And now the story of a true genius. 1949, Marcel Bic, a 35-year-old entrepreneur from the French elite, holds a Biro pen for the first time. But this isn't an ordinary merchant. Son of an Italian baron and Frenchwoman, lawyer by education, who at 22 was already managing chemical production. Irony of fate. The man who would destroy the fountain pen market started by producing ink for them. In his eyes lights that special spark that distinguishes a visionary from a simple businessman. He sees a way to democratize writing and make good money doing it. Bic buys all patents from Biro for $2 million, astronomical money for those times. Friends thought he'd gone mad. Marcel, you've lost it. Who needs your pens? Marcel invests in Swiss high-precision equipment. The task, create a perfect stainless steel ball, 1 millimeter in diameter. But the main revolution, the body material. Bic was among the first to use newly appeared plastic. Polystyrene solved all problems at once. 50 times cheaper than metal, transparent, you can see the ink level doesn't break when dropped, can be stamped by the millions. Every detail, the result of engineering calculation, hexagonal body, doesn't roll off the table, tiny hole, ventilation for even ink flow. The ball creates a seal when at rest. 1950, first batch of Bic Cristal, $2 each, 10 times cheaper than the cheapest fountain pen. The reaction exceeded even Bic's dreams. On the first day, American and European stores were swept by a wave of buying frenzy. Pens were swept off shelves faster than hot dogs at a baseball game. By 1953, 40 million pens per year. Bic acts like a modern startup. Factories on all continents, aggressive marketing, market capture. Funny detail, Bic removed the H from his surname because the English pronounced Bic as an indecent word. Thus was born the Bic brand. Short as a shot. While Bic was building his empire in the West, post-war Europe was unfolding its own drama. At first, everything went so-so. Crooked microballs, inks based on castor oil and rosin were capricious. The first European copies leaked like a leaking roof. Only by the mid-1960s did Swiss equipment start working at Papermate factories. Quality inks, precise balls, stable production. In America, the appearance of affordable ballpoint pens became a real revolution. Teacher from Chicago, Mary Johnson, seeing such a pen for the first time, wrote in her diary, "Children will stop hating writing. Finally, you can write quickly and simply." And now the most interesting part. The cheap pen launched a chain reaction of social changes. In schools, children began writing without suffering. Learning speed increased many times over. In offices, paperwork became simpler and faster for everyone. In families, parents began writing more. Letters, diaries, shopping lists. The numbers are staggering. From 1950 to 2000, world literacy grew from 42% to 85%. Ballpoint pens naturally not the only reason, but they made writing easy and pleasant for billions of people. Today, 74 years later, the Bic Cristal design hasn't changed by a millimeter. In an era when the iPhone updates every year, this pen remains an eternal constant. Why? Because it achieved perfection. It's like the wheel, the form was found once and for all. Any change would only worsen the design. Over its entire history, more than 100 billion Bic pens have been sold. If you line them up, they would wrap around Earth 320 times. Sometimes you don't need to invent something new, but take an existing idea and make it accessible to everyone. That's what real entrepreneurship is. Subscribe to the channel to learn stories of things that changed everything. And in the comments, share, what pen did you write with in school? And what ordinary object, in your opinion, hides an unexpected story? Don't forget to like if you enjoyed the story. See you in the next episode.